So let's get into AI and how this. One thing that I'm wondering, just from listening to this about crypto, we all know that crypto requires mining, right? And people have to set up these, if they want to get that Bitcoin, there's still an opportunity to get it. It's kind of like the old Wild West days where people could go and mine for actual gold and hopefully get rich, or they can go and hopefully strike oil and get really rich. And the average person would be able to kind of the average person. I mean, you have to have a lot of infrastructure to strike oil, right? You have to have the infrastructure to mine for gold. And so you need the infrastructure to mine for Bitcoin in that same way. Um, with DeepSeek, I'm curious. They came out with a new AI that that they claim um, used a fraction of the computing power that like OpenAI needs to do their AI that DeepSeek was able to do it for a lot less. Is that something that would translate over into mining for Bitcoin? Like, wow, now anybody could do this for a lot less potentially. I mean, is that something that could translate?
So, Kim, there are a couple of things at play here. So, just to pull back from a macro perspective, in simple terms, the AI ecosystem includes three components: there's energy, there's hardware, that's that NVIDIA chip that you're referencing, and there's
Yeah.
software. That's the DeepSeek algorithm that you're talking about. And in this instance, it's really interesting because DeepSeek's founder came out and said that for $5.6 million, we were able to upgrade this new algorithm so that it competes directly with Sam Altman's OpenAI platform, ChatGPT. And to your point, Kim, we were able to use a lesser quality chip. And they made a lot of noise about that. The reality is that the end user could care less about the quality of the chip. The end user wants something that's an affordable experience that has an accurate answer.
Right.
So now I'm only talking about one part of DeepSeek, the search engine piece of it. It's better than Google. If you try it out, you'll see. And what happened was when DeepSeek came out, because it was free, whereas OpenAI is kind of expensive, it's about, just for the average person, $20 a month, right?
Yeah.
So for
That's what I
free,
pay.
I
Right.
right? So for free now, I can access a comparable product and have a similar experience. And people chase that shiny object. Americans rushed in. DeepSeek's app went to #1 in the App Store. I think over 2 million people downloaded it without reading the terms of service, the contract agreement, which we can talk about some issues as it relates to privacy in China there, but they all rushed in. Now, the NVIDIA piece of it is separate. From a financial perspective, NVIDIA was working to a certain extent with a great moat around it. The entire marketplace, big companies, Amazon, Meta, Google, Microsoft, they're all going and they're betting on artificial intelligence. So they're buying as much of NVIDIA's super chip as they could buy so they could stay ahead of the competition. And they need that compute, they need that data. So they were spending a lot of money for it, Kim. For example, I'm not sure if you're aware of the profit margins, but basically, NVIDIA was spending $3,500 and selling these chips for $40,000 to companies like Meta, Google, and Microsoft. So they had a huge profit margin, and they were the only game in town. And DeepSeek steps in and says, we didn't even have access to the NVIDIA chip because of the Biden administration's protective type of legislation. We went in and were able to use a lesser quality chip to do the same thing. And perhaps NVIDIA was existing in a bubble and that bubble burst at that moment. So it's an interesting situation because effectively what we're saying here in America now is we need to compete. We need to create better quality chips for less money and give NVIDIA more competition so the end user's experience is more affordable, right?
Yeah. And that's kind of what Trump was just saying recently. He's saying we're going to manufacture chips in the United States. We want to bring the manufacturing here, which I think is smart. I mean, here we are, acting like we're going to wage war over Taiwan. And why? When you ask anybody why, they all say the chips, the chips. And it's like, well, why don't we? And China's starting to make chips on their shore. Why don't we do that here? Like, why don't, okay, then we eliminate the threat of war with China over chips if we just make them
Correct.
here. I mean, that would just make the
Correct.
most sense for so many
Correct. And
reasons.
Correct. And the issue with regards to chips goes even deeper. Like, for example, as you are probably well aware, China has really created a monopoly over certain raw materials that go into the chips. So, for example, gallium, 98% of the Earth's access to gallium is controlled now by China, and it's one of the critical components that go into these chips. So we're in a
Mm.
situation now where I think Trump is going to have to unlock access to various raw materials on a global scale, and we have to start to fight China as it relates to their access to these raw minerals in Africa and other regions. They've done a tremendous job over the past 10 years at monopolizing access to the ingredients effectively for these super chips.
I mean, that was a big mistake on our part. I gotta say, we invested very little into Africa, and China went in full steam ahead to Africa and really built up a lot of those nations, made a lot of friends, and now they're the ones benefiting. I guess we're eyeing Greenland. Do we have that? Is that mineral found is that in
We need
Greenland?
Greenland. We totally need Greenland. I'll tell you something cool. Like I heard this theory. It's just speculation about the NVIDIA element. So the founder of DeepSeek, this is like a really cool concept. It just came to my attention yesterday. But the founder of DeepSeek, his background is he runs a hedge fund. The hedge fund invests in AI. He's built that hedge fund. It's called High Flyer. It's been around since 2016. And apparently the Chinese government has been funding it for years and years and years. He came out with this like crazy statement that he was able to, for just 5.6 million, compete directly with OpenAI. Remember, OpenAI has spent billions of dollars to get it to where it
Right.
is today, and to use a chip that is subpar as it relates to the technology that NVIDIA is using. And this person that I spoke to is speculating that it was actually a financial move. They came out with such extreme statements, which are untrue, to create this movement down, to pull all of this equity out of the stock market, but also to short NVIDIA. And if you
Yeah.
look at it on that day, the people who were shorting NVIDIA made $6.6 billion
Wow.
from shorting that stock. And there are other related
Yeah.
chip stock that were shorted too. I think it gets to about $10 billion were pulled out with regards to profit. So this individual is speculating that the DeepSeek founder, the whole game there was to short NVIDIA and to take billions of dollars off the table.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, maybe. There's definitely a lot of speculation that they're lying, that they have the NVIDIA chips, that they just can't admit it because they weren't supposed to get them. There's a lot of, but it is not in our best interest to think they're lying. It's in our best interest to think they did this because they really
I
might have done this. And if they did do this and they're not lying, and it wasn't for any of these other reasons, I mean, we're in deep trouble. It seems like we've got a couple of companies that have spent, like you said, billions of dollars to build this stuff, and the Chinese. And this was such a pivotal moment. If this is real, if what they've done is real, which I have no reason to believe it's not real, they have done so much advancement, except for the tendency for America to want to downplay and minimize anything China does because we think there's no way they've caught up. They're still way behind us. And I've been hearing that for 30 years. China in 30 years, they'll be our real competitor. Well, it's been 30 years, guys. Like here they are. They're landing rovers on the dark side of the moon. They've got, they're doing a lot of stuff that we're not doing. So maybe they just have caught up, and maybe they're going to give us a big run for our money. They got a lot of people, and a lot of those kids, by the way, that were one child only kids. They're my age, right? They're now in their 40s, and their parents put every ounce of resource into that one kid, made sure that one kid, and I'm Asian, so I know that one kid was told, you're going to become an engineer. You have no other options. You're going to engineer, you're going into medicine, you're going to be a scientist. And now there's a boatload of them, way more than we have. There's so many in China, they can't employ them all. I mean, the engineers are leaving China and they're becoming like cab driver. They come to, they've been trying to come to the United States over the border, and they're like becoming cab drivers. I mean, because they can't get a job in China as an engineer because there's just too much competition. I mean, they're really ahead of the game. So where are we at with the AI race? What is the implication if China of this race for AI that is really happening between the United States and China? What is AI going to do for us? I could see where it's going to help government. there's a lot of issues with like surveillance and military warfare, and there's that kind of stuff. But the average person with AI, and China being potentially the leader, I mean, kind of break that down for us, this race we're in and why it's so important, if it's important at all.
Kim, I have to tell you, I'm so impressed with your assessment. You are like so dead on as it relates to the education piece of it. I just read last night that China has 3 times the amount of students studying to be engineers than in the United States. I think it's like 1.5 million to a 500,000 in the United
Yeah.
States. And that matters. It matters in a major, major way. You're like dead on. You're also dead on as it relates to the AI war between China and the United States. We thought we were about 2.5 years, 2.5 years ahead of China before that DeepSeek moment. And now we're head to head. I couldn't agree with you more when you say, like, hey, it's a real wake up call. America should have that information because it's time for our entrepreneurs and businesses to step up and make better quality chips for less money to create stronger algorithms so that we could really compete with AI at this moment. For without a doubt, we're there and it needs to happen. AI is going to radically change the way our society functions. It's going to hit every aspect of our life. And I think if it's done right, it could happen in the next 3 to 5 years. It's going to hit everything from the creative industries, think in terms of fashion, art, music, sports, entertainment. If people want to fight up against legacy businesses like Hollywood or the fashion industry or the music industry, record labels, they could all use AI in their home, in the comfort of their home, in a cost efficient way. They could use cryptocurrency to be paid. They could use social media to market. We're right there. And it's going to apply
Yeah.
across, think about medicine. I had a interview, and it's in my book. The story is in my book. We have already right here in New York City used artificial intelligence on patients who have been suffering from paralysis. And through the use of artificial intelligence right here already in New York City, people are who have been paralyzed are feeling and starting to move again.
Wow.
So the healthcare industry, the medical sciences industry, it's all going to radically change. Think in terms of efficiencies for infrastructure as it relates to heating of homes, access to water. The banking system is going to change. My favorite area in the book is with regards to military. It will be interesting to watch big entities like the United States that stockpile the most advanced but the most expensive weapons. How are we going to compete with drones that are functioned by AI or swarms of drones that AI are managing now? Again, where small rogue actors can access these drones and use them as weapons against us. Think in terms of like the speedboat versus the tanker. I think that you're going to see Pete Hegseth running the Department of Defense, and he's going to access, I think, a lot of resources towards new AI-driven technologies, drones. We're going to see fighter jets that are going to be unmanned. I think the whole landscape of war is about to change. So I break it all down in my book, Kim.
Hmm.
Basically, what I do with my book is I talk about how if you are a beginner and you want to figure out how artificial intelligence can enhance your career, your family, and your city, here are the tools. And I go through every single sector, finance to hospitals to insurance to fashion, every single sector, and I break it all down. I literally give the reader the tools that she can use right now to implement artificial intelligence in her life to make it better.
Oh, that's great. I think a lot of people wonder, what is this going to, like my husband, what does this do for me? And he's an attorney. And I'm like, you better watch out, because
Oh, your husband,
AI, you know,
yeah. There are amazing platforms. Like AI is going to wipe out an entire segment of the legal profession. They're going to become a lot more streamlined. There's an AI called Harvey. I don't know if you've heard of it or if your husband has heard of it, but tell them to check it out. They've been using it over in Europe. They've been training it over in Europe. And Harvey's been around now for a couple of years, and it's going to really streamline legal practices in a major way.
yeah. What do you think the outlook is for jobs then? I mean, in one sense, what you're describing, I think, is incredible. What AI, and really, and I hadn't thought about this, but until you said it, but what it really brings forward is the ability for the little guy to compete with the big guy. And that's kind of what DeepSeek showed, right? They were like, oh, we did this for a fraction of the money and we were able to compete with you. And AI, not even just in the, creation of your own AI, but even like you said with movies, for example, the fact that a small team of creators could get together with like 5 people and create an incredible Hollywood blockbuster where
Yeah.
normally that would take massive numbers of people, thousands of employees, tons and millions upon millions of dollars to make a Hollywood blockbuster. And now that opens up to anybody to compete with these big businesses. So the one real great change I see is that, there seems to be a lot of monopolies in the United States with these big businesses. They've dominated industries. It's hard for new people to break in, smaller companies to break in. And yet AI might actually be opening that path for anybody and everybody, much like, the technology advancements that we experienced here with shows and broadcasting. I mean, the fact that I'm able to do this and compete with mainstream news is incredible. And even 10 years ago wasn't even a real possibility, but now today it is. So it's, the advancement is amazing. But talk real quick about the negative impact. A lot of people are worried about jobs being lost and a lot of people being left out in the cold. And you even have guys like Elon Musk and Andrew Yang talked about this a lot on the campaign trail. If you're just going to have a lot of unemployed people and you're going to have to give them some sort of a, basic universal income.
So it's every time we see new technology come into the United States, going all the way back to like the automobile, people are afraid, right? It's like this common thing. They think they're going to lose jobs. I believe the opposite will happen with artificial intelligence. New jobs will be created, not just as it relates to using AI, but think about the entire ecosystem, how accounting will change, how the legal profession will change, new business ideas will come up. Artificial intelligence is going to start to train artificial intelligence in new ways. It's going to hyperscale in ways that we couldn't imagine. So I'm bullish about it. I anticipate, in fact, that more jobs will be created and it's going to help economies across the planet.
Okay, so you're positive about it. I like that you're
Very
positive
positive.
about it. And I know that your book is very positive about it. And again, is a guide for the average person. We do have the link down below, Some Future Day, How AI is Going to Change Everything. I like hearing from somebody that is positive and doesn't think, oh, it's going to spell doom and gloom for millions of people who aren't going to
No
have
way.
jobs. Because that's typically the feeling that we have is, I mean, you go into like a McDonald's or something and suddenly the people at the register, I mean, this is very frustrating. The last time I went into a McDonald's, I had to go up to a screen and push the buttons, and there was nobody to be found, like not a single human being in the front of the house at all. And then my order, and we just all stood there, and everybody kind of looked at each other really confused, like, is the food going to show up? Like, how does this work? Because we're not seeing a human being at all. And so I think that part of it scares people because we're seeing people disappear essentially. But then again, people are talking about a population crisis. We don't have enough people. Well, maybe we don't need the people.
Well,
Maybe
Kim, think about
maybe
what's
it's
going on
okay.
and think about like what's going on with Elon Musk and Doge right now. Like the American government is freaking out because he's checking what's going on, right? How resources have been allocated, where monies are being spent. How do you think he's doing it in such a cost efficient way? He's using artificial intelligence and they're
Right.
checking everything to see what's working there. And the answer will happen. We're going to get answers quickly. The government never seems to be accountable, Kim. It's like a whole different ball game. Every business, your business, my business, everybody's accountable every single day. But yet the American government doesn't feel like they've needed to be accountable. They've been in the basement of like the Department of Defense for 30 years with the same
Yeah.
old fashioned paper stack. And what he's doing is he's going to create efficiencies like the way the rest of our American economy works. AI is going to be a positive thing for America. You will see.
Mark Beckman, thank you so much for joining us again. That link is down below. Also, we have the link down below to your podcast. You have a great show on YouTube. I saw that you interviewed Melania Trump, so that's pretty. And I watched a bit of it. I
Oh,
really
cool.
liked watching that. She's a smart one, isn't she? I mean, she's an intelligent woman, and I don't think people
She
give her credit.
Yeah, I thank you so much for for sharing all of that. And Yeah, my interview with her was super compelling. She showed a part of her that nobody has seen before.
Yeah.
There are many faces to Melania Trump. She's intellectual. She's proud of her business. She prioritizes her family. And I think we're lucky to have her as first lady. It's going to be really great to watch what she does over the next 4
Yeah.
years.
She's a smart one. I really enjoyed that interview. So I have the link down below to your podcast, to your show, also to your book. Mark, thank you again for being here.
Kim, it's such a pleasure. Thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed speaking with you.
Thanks for watching this clip from the full Kim Iverson show. If you want to watch the full show, just visit KimIversonShow.com. The show airs every Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Again, it's KimIversonShow.com. See you there.